Hello Toy Collector fans, Universal Toy Collector here and welcome to the channel. And welcome to another episode of Figure Focus, the series where I get to choose figures of a certain character for my own personal Star Wars collection within the 3 3/4 inch and 6 inch lines and give you my own thoughts and opinions on those figures. And as you can see, today's focus will be on Han Solo. So then, as in previous episodes, I will be showing the figures in order of film appearance. So obviously, starting first, we have Han Solo in his iconic look from Star Wars A New Hope. And he's represented in my collection by the original vintage Kenner figures here, the retro collection figure there. We also have the Star Wars Power of the Force 2 figure. Then this side we have the Black Series Star Wars 40th Anniversary figure here on card back. And we have another Black Series figure here, which is part of the 50th Lucasfilm anniversary. And this is on a Star Wars The Power of the Force card back. Now, like I said, he was an iconic figure and one of my favourites as a kid. However, I never had this version of Han Solo as a child, which was kind of a little bit disappointing for me. My friend had him and I thought he was such a cool looking figure. But by the time I started collecting Star Wars, this figure was pretty hard to come by. And I couldn't find him in any of the stores. So that is why I'm absolutely delighted that I have got both versions now within my collection. So really happy with those. Again, we have here the retro collection figure. Now, I'm glad that I've got a retro looking figure on a card back. The image is absolute quality. I love that image of Han Solo. But I've said it many a times before, so I'm not going to go too deep into it again. My feelings on those card backs. Then, after a few years of not having any Star Wars in the shops at all, we have the Star Wars Power of the Force 2 figures on their card backs. So at that time, I was fairly excited that we were going to be having more Star Wars figures. Then when I saw the figures and card backs, to say I was a little bit disappointed was an understatement. The figures didn't look great and the card backs were not the card backs that I liked and we all loved as kids. However, over the years, I have grown to like certain figures and the card backs are fairly decent. They're not too bad. You know, they're passable, but they're not as good as these figures here. I've said previously as well that we are missing Han Solo within the TVC collection. And my feelings at that time, when I'd done the previous videos, that I was thinking we weren't going to be getting Han, Luke or Leia until the 50th anniversary of Star Wars, where they're going to do one big bundle and put them out for the 50th anniversary. Well, what the bloody hell do I know? Recently, Hasbro have revealed a pipeline of Princess Leia from Star Wars A New Hope. So I am hoping that fairly soon we will be having Princess Leia, Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, all new sculpt, all new molds on a TVC card back. That would be absolutely awesome because they are such iconic figures. Anyhow, a few years later, I think it was 2017, Star Wars 40th Anniversary, Black Series decided to do their versions of Han Solo and the original figures from Star Wars. And I've got to say, I'm loving these. The card back, absolute classic. Really loving that card back, albeit the bubble is a little bit big, which is blocking his blaster there. But other than that, it's a great image of Harrison Ford as Han Solo. And the figure, I've got to say, for the time, wasn't too bad. The face isn't great, and I know they've had a lot of trouble in the past with certain characters and their facial likeness and stuff like that. But as a figure goes, not too bad. Fairly pleased with that. And then on the 50th anniversary of Lucasfilm, they re-released Han Solo again, this time with a photoreal face on a Power of the Force card back. And I've got to say, this is the reason that I'm liking these card backs now. This card back here, it does look fairly decent. It could do with a bit of a wipe, actually. There's a bit of dust on there, but hey ho, I'll do that in a bit. But again, the figure, the same as this figure here, but the photo real face, I wouldn't say it's absolutely brilliant. It's better than what it was on this figure here. Again, still not 100% accurate, but overall, you know, a decent figure. So yeah, I've got to say I really like this version of Han Solo, the iconic look from Star Wars A New Hope. And yeah, let's crack on and see what we've got next. Next up then we have Han Solo in his Stormtrooper disguise from Star Wars A New Hope, and he is represented in my collection by this single figure, which is the Black Series 6-inch version, and this has come in an older style of packaging. So when the Black Series were first released, they came in this type of packaging where you had the blue line down the back, and also similar style packaging with the orange line down the back. Overall thoughts on this figure? Yeah, I really like it. Absolutely decent. The packaging is in decent shape as well. I managed to pick this up for a fairly decent price. I do believe it was £10 from the Entertainer. And normally the boxes are quite bashed and stuff like that. This one is in decent condition, and he will be staying in the box. Now, I do wonder why Kenner never got round to releasing a Han Solo in Stormtrooper disguise. They did it with Luke Skywalker as part of the last 17. And I wouldn't say disappointed, but I always did ask the question, why have they not done Han Solo? I know Stan Solo has done a version of Han in his Stormtrooper disguise in the Kenner style. So that is a possibility that I could be picking that figure up at some point in the future. So yeah, awesome looking figure. Anyhow, that's it for Star Wars A New Hope. Let's move on to Han Solo from Empire Strikes Back. Okay then, so the first time we see Han Solo in Empire Strikes Back, he's in his Hoth gear, and he is represented in my collection by the original vintage Kenner version. Then we have the Star Wars Retro Collection version. Then we have the Star Wars 6-inch Black Series version on an archive card back. And I've got to say, I really do like this figure. Again, Han Solo, one of my favourite figures or characters as a kid. To see him in the Hoth gear, I was like, wow, absolutely awesome. However, once again, I never had this version of Han Solo as a kid. So to have him in my collection now, I'm absolutely delighted. Again, we've got him on the Retro Collection card back there. The figure looks fairly decent. The image on the card back, it's a stunning image. I absolutely love that image. Again, on the card there. Then on the 6-inch version, we have Han Solo here in his Hoth gear, and I've got to say I am mightily impressed with the look of this figure. The card back, however, is very bland. It is part of the 50th Lucasfilm anniversary. The reason I got it was because it was a 50th anniversary card back. But yeah, like I say, decent image of Han Solo there. You've got all his bump there. But this is such a great looking figure, and this figure I will be keeping on card back. There is every possibility, however, that I could get another one of these figures and open him up, because I do like that figure. I think he looks absolutely awesome. And from what I can see, the facial sculpt and the photo reel doesn't look too bad. So all in all, the figure is an absolutely fantastic figure. Like I said, the card back on this is fairly bland. The image on this card back is absolutely amazing. I'm really liking that. And I'm not 100% sure whether they've done this figure in TVC or not. If they have, then I need to pick him up, because I'm loving that original style card back. Anyhow, let's move on to Han Solo's next costume in Empire Strikes Back. Righty-ho then, so next up we have Han Solo in his Bespin gear, and he is represented in my collection by the original vintage Kenner version, the TVC version, which is VC50. Then we have the 6-inch Black Series 40th anniversary Empire Strikes Back version right here. And off the bat, I've got to say, this is my absolute favourite version of Han Solo. The card back is absolute quality. He looks as smooth as hell there with that pose. And then the costume itself, absolutely tremendous. This was definitely one of my favourites as a kid. I did have this figure as a kid. I had hours of fun with him. Absolute quality, and he was the figure that I used predominantly as Han Solo, apart from obviously when he was on Endor, but we'll get to that in a bit. But the blues, the browns, the whites, it just pops that figure. And like I say, the card back is absolute quality. I'm loving that image of Han Solo. However, I do have a couple of nitpicks. On the card, it's got Han Solo Bespin, but as most of you know, he did wear that costume in Echo Base as well, so I don't know why they've specifically put it down as Bespin. I don't know why they've done that. And another thing as well is the photo reel on Han Solo. For some reason, they seem to really find it difficult to get a decent looking Han Solo, well, especially Harrison Ford anyway. So the sculpt and the look on the face of Han Solo on the TVC version isn't great. However, the figure, I love the outfit. I think that's pretty cool. And the same could be said for the Black Series version as well. Now, the photo reel had kicked in by the time the 40th anniversary Empire Strikes Back figures had come out, but even still, it's not ideal. It's not a great representation of Harrison Ford, but I've got to say, the figure, the outfit, it looks absolutely tremendous, so I'm really liking this. So overall thoughts, fantastic figure and absolutely tremendous card back. Really loving it. Right, let's crack on and move on to the next version of Han Solo, shall we? So next up then we have Han Solo in Carbonite, and this is how he first appears in The Return of the Jedi, and it's exactly the same look as we see towards the end of The Empire Strikes Back when he's been put into the carbon freezing chamber. Now he is represented within my collection by the vintage Kenner version, the TVC version which is VC136, and the Black Series 6-inch 40th anniversary Empire Strikes Back figure, and I do believe that this is an Amazon exclusive. Now, please do correct me if I'm wrong on that. So we'll start with the Kenner version, and he was part of the last 17. And as I've said previously and other times, I did not have any of the last 17 figures. So to get him in the collection, I am absolutely over the moon. Albeit, it did cost me a pretty penny, and that was about 3 years ago, I want to say. So I think 2020 is when I started getting a lot of the last 17 figures. And yeah, I have no idea how much he's going for today, but I'm just mightily pleased that I managed to pick him up at a fairly decent price back then. So then we have the vintage collection version. Like I said, this is VC136, and he came with Rees in the small Jabba's playset that they did. And I've got to say, a little bit disappointed with this one because the card is fairly warped, as you can see there, so I'm not happy about that. That's how it was packed, so yeah, not too impressed with that. I will, however, at some point be looking to get a better carded figure of him, keep him carded, and then open that one up and then put him in my vintage collection original trilogy display. But yeah, the card back, I've got to say, although it's I don't mind the card back, it is fairly boring because it's just basically him as a block of Carbonite. So yeah, and it's exactly the same for the Black Series version. The card back is a decent card back. Again, I find it fairly bland because it's just like him in Carbonite. But you do not get a figure with this one. It's basically just Han Solo in the Carbonite with a stand at the back. So there is no figure within in this box. I'll just have a look around there. No, it's not. So yeah, I've got one of these, and it's very doubtful that I will be getting another one, just simply because there is no figure to display. Not like you have with the original vintage Kenner version and the TVC version. Anyhow, that's it for Han in Carbonite. Let's crack on and see what else we've got. Okie dokie then, so the next time we see Han Solo in Return of the Jedi, he is in his Endor outfit, and he's represented in my collection by the original vintage Kenner versions, the Star Wars Retro Collection version, the TVC version, which is VC62, and the 6-inch Black Series 40th Anniversary Return of the Jedi version, which is right in front of us here. Now, I did have this figure as a kid, and as you can see, I have two here because they've got different style trench coats. Now, in previous videos, I've said, oh yeah, I'm not into collecting variants. My arse. So yeah, I've got a few variants within my collection, but it's not something that I predominantly go out and do, which is to get variants. It's just one or two. But yeah, like I say, as a kid I had this figure, and I predominantly used him just for like indoor missions and stuff like that, whereas the Han Solo in his Bespin gear, he was my main Han Solo, unless he went outside and fought with teddy bears in the woods, which is what this guy was used for. Facial wise, again, he's a little bit fat in the face, I thought, but yeah, not a bad figure overall. And I love the cloth goods trench coat as well. Then we have the retro collection version. Again, he's going to be staying on card back. Yeah, the card is fairly decent. Another decent image of Harrison Ford there. And as you can see from the original Star Wars card that we showed you earlier, he has aged a little bit between making of Star Wars and by the time they got around to doing Return of the Jedi. But still a fairly decent card back or image anyhow. Then we have the TVC version, VC62. Again, a great card back. Such a nostalgia blast when you see this card back. But the figure isn't the greatest, is it? I mean, again, yeah, it's just not great. The articulation isn't great. I think it's an old style figure. They re-released this figure. So this is from TVC 2.0. And again, the photo reel doesn't look great. They have got another version of Han Solo, which is part of the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. I've not managed to get him yet. No doubt I'll be picking him up at some point in the future. But this figure, yeah, I don't know. I'm on the fence with this figure. The card back, always, you can, never disappointed too much with the card back. I think the card back looks great, but the figure itself isn't the best. And then we have the 6-inch version. Again, he looks fairly decent with the cloth goods and stuff like that. But again, the photo reel on the face and the sculpt, it just doesn't look like Harrison Ford, especially from where I'm sitting and looking at this guy here in the packaging there. But again, the card back, you can't go wrong with the card back. Overall, the presentation, it looks decent, but I'm a little bit disappointed with the photo reel and the facial sculpt of Harrison Ford there. I think this one here at the angle he's looking down at, you can see a little bit of Harrison Ford there, but the one in the bubble, the way his head's positioned, it doesn't look anything like him. Overall, yeah, I like the figure. Not the best version of Han Solo, I've got to say, out of the ones that I've shown today. But again, an iconic look and a proper nostalgia blast seeing those card backs. Anyhow, that's it from Han Solo for the original trilogy. Let's move on and see what we've got next then, shall we? Righty ho then, so next up we have Han Solo from The Force Awakens, and he is represented in my collection by the 6-inch Black Series version. I do, however, have 3 3/4 inch 5 POA versions of Han Solo, but I really couldn't be asked to get him out for this video because I just, what can I say? It's Han Solo, he's an old man. Figure-wise, I'm trying not to think too much about the film. Figure-wise, yeah, he's okay. The sculpt's okay, I guess. The face sculpt, again, isn't the greatest for Harrison Ford. I do believe, however, that the new photoreal version of this figure on the archive card is slightly better than the original version that was in the Black Series. I really don't have much to say about this figure at all, other than it's old man Han Solo. And yeah, that's it. So what we shall do now is crack on with the last figure of Han Solo that I have in my collection. Righty ho then, so last but not least we have Han Solo from Solo, a Star Wars movie, and he is represented in my collection by the 6-inch Black Series versions. Like Old Man Han, I do have the 5 POA 3 3/4 inch version figures of Han Solo from Solo, a Star Wars story. I just didn't want to get these out for this review. Not that I couldn't be asked is probably the wrong wording. I just not a great lover of either Old Man Han or Han Solo from the Solo, a Star Wars movie. I'm not going to get too deep into that because this is figure focus. So looking at the figure, I've got to say the photoreal likeness to Aiden Aldrich is a lot better than the photoreal of Harrison Ford as Han Solo. The costume looks absolutely awesome. I do like that, so I do have some good points about it. However, Aiden Aldrich just isn't my Han Solo. It's as simple as that. They deep-faked Carrie Fisher. They deep-faked Mark Hamill. Why couldn't they have done the same with Harrison Ford for Solo, a Star Wars story? Or get someone who looks a lot more like Harrison Ford. Yeah, anyhow, that's all I've got to say about this figure. It's a fairly decent figure. Likeness to the actors is fairly good. But other than that, he's not my Han Solo. Anyhow, that is it for this video. So if you are new to the channel, feel free to comment, like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell to let you know of more content. And as always, there will be more content. Appreciate you watching. Very much appreciate your support. Thank you so much. Take care, stay safe, and we shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.